Sun Tzu, The Art of War. 9 kinds of ground. Master Sun said, in war there are 9 kinds of ground. Scattering ground, light ground, strategic ground, open ground, crossroad ground, heavy ground, intractable ground, enclosed ground, death ground. When the feudal lords fight on home territory, that is scattering ground. When an army enters enemy territory but not deeply, that is light ground. When the ground offers advantage to either side, that is strategic ground. When each side can come and go freely, that is open ground. When the ground borders 3 states and the first to take it has mastery of the empire, that is crossroad ground. When an army enters enemy territory deeply and holds several fortified towns in its rear, that is heavy ground. When an army travels through mountains and forests, cliffs and crags, marshes and fens, hard roads, these are intractable ground. Ground reached through narrow gorges, retreated from by twisting paths, where a smaller force of theirs can strike our larger one, that is enclosed ground. Ground where mere survival requires a desperate struggle, where without a desperate struggle we perish, that is death ground. On scattering ground, do not fight. On light ground, do not halt. On strategic ground, do not attack. On open ground, do not block. On crossroad ground, form alliances. On heavy ground, plunder. On intractable ground, keep marching. On enclosed ground, devise stratagems. On death ground, fight. The skillful warrior of old could prevent the enemy's vanguard from linking with his rear, large and small divisions from working together, crack troops from helping poor troops, officers and men from supporting one another. The enemy, once separated, could not reassemble. Once united, could not act in concert. When there was some gain to be had, he made a move. When there was none, he halted. To the question, how should we confront numerous and well-arrayed, poised to attack? My reply is, seize something he cherishes, and he will do your will. Speed is the essence of war. Exploit the enemy's unpreparedness, attack him unawares, take an unexpected route. The way of invasion is this. Deep penetration brings cohesion. Your enemy will not prevail. Plunder fertile country to nourish your men. Cherish your troops, do not wear them out. Nurture your energy, concentrate it. Move your men about. Devise stratagems that cannot be fathomed. Throw your men where there is no escape, and they will die rather than flee. Move your men about. Devise stratagems that cannot be fathomed. Throw your men where there is no escape, and they will die rather than flee. Men who have faced death can achieve anything. They will give their last drop of strength, officers and men alike. Troops in desperate states know no fear. Where there is no escape, they stand firm. When they have entered deep, they persist. When they see no hope, they fight. They are alert without needing discipline. They act without needing instructions. They are devoted without needing a compact. They are loyal without needing orders. Forbid the consulting of omens. Cast out doubts, and they will go on to the death. Our men have no excess of worldly goods, and yet they do not disdain wealth. They do not expect to live long, and yet they do not disdain long life. On the day they are ordered into battle, they sit up and weep, wetting their clothes with their tears. They lie down and weep, wetting their cheeks. but throw them where there is no escape, and they will fight with the courage of the heroes of Tzu and Gui. The skillful warrior deploys his troops like the Shuarian snake found on Mount Heng. Strike its head and the tail lashes back. Strike its tail and the head fights back. Strike its belly and both head and tail will attack you. To the question, can an army be like the Shuarian snake? I reply, yes it can. Take the men of Wu and the men of Yu, they are enemies. But if they cross a river in the same boat and they encounter a wind, they will help each other like right hand and left. It's not enough to tether horses and to bury chariot wheels. There must be a single courage throughout. This is the way to manage an army. Strong and weak both can serve, thanks to the principle of ground. The skillful warrior directs his army as if it were a single man. He leaves it no choice but to obey. It is the business of the general to be still and inscrutable, to be upright and impartial. He must be able to keep his troops in ignorance, to deceive their eyes and their ears. He changes his ways and alters his plans to keep the enemy in ignorance. He shifts camp and takes roundabout routes to keep the enemy in the dark. He leads his men into battle like a man climbing a height and kicking away the ladder. He leads them deep into the territory of the feudal lords and releases the trigger. He burns his boats, he breaks his pots. He's like a shepherd driving his sheep this way and that. No one knows where he is going. He assembles his troops and throws them into danger. This is the business of the commander. These things must be studied. The variations of the 9 kinds of ground, the advantages of flexible maneuver, the principles of human nature. These things must be studied. The variations of the 9 kinds of ground, the advantages of flexible maneuver, the principles of human nature. The way of invasion is this: deep penetration brings cohesion. Shallow penetration brings scattering. When you leave your own territory and lead your men across the border, you enter dire terrain. When there are lines of communication on all 4 sides, you are on crossroad terrain. When you penetrate deeply, you are on heavy terrain. When you penetrate superficially, you are on light terrain. When there are strongholds to your rear and narrow passes in front, you are on enclosed terrain. When there is no way out, you are on death terrain. On scattering ground, we unite the will of our men. On light ground, we keep them connected. On strategic ground, we bring up our rear. On open ground, we see to our defences. On crossroad ground, we strengthen our alliances. On heavy ground, we ensure continuity of supplies. On intractable ground, we keep on the move. On enclosed ground, we block the passes. On death ground, we demonstrate the desperateness of the situation. It is the soldier's nature that when surrounded he resists. When all seems lost he struggles on. When in danger he obeys orders. Without knowing the plans of the feudal lords you cannot form alliances. Without knowing the lie of hills and woods, of cliffs and crags, of marshes and fens, you cannot march. Without using local guides you cannot exploit the lie of the land. Ignorance of any one of these points is not characteristic of the army of a great king. When the army of a great king attacks a powerful state, he does not allow the enemy to concentrate his forces. He overawes the enemy and undermines his alliances. He does not strive to ally himself with all the other states. He does not foster their power. He pursues his own secret designs, overawing his enemies. Thus he can capture the enemy's cities and destroy the enemy's state. Distribute rewards without undue respect for rules. Publish orders without undue regard for precedent. Deal with a whole army as if it were a single man. Apply them to their task without words of explanation. Confront them with the advantage, but do not explain the danger. Throw them into perilous ground, and they will survive. Plunge them into death ground, and they will live. When a force has fallen into danger, it can snatch victory from defeat. Success in war lies in scrutinizing enemy intentions and going with them. Focus on the enemy, and from hundreds of miles you can kill their general. This is success through cunning. On the day you decide to attack, close the passes, destroy the tallies, break off into course with envoys, be firm in the temple council for the execution of your plans. If the enemy opens a door, rush in, seize what he holds dear, and secretly contrive an encounter. Discard rules, follow the enemy to fight the decisive battle. At first, be like a maiden when the enemy opens the door. Be swift as a hare, your enemy will not withstand you.